How's it going, guys? I'm Sarcastic with Hyperloops. So, pretty much it's been roughly a week after Worlds. Today's Friday. So, finally had time to really kind of break everything down. Is this actually the second Friday after Worlds? Yeah, it's actually the second Friday after Worlds. Oops. So yeah, I kind of decompressed that entire week after Worlds. Just didn't want anything to do with Destiny. But we're back at it again. So I guess we're really looking at what could potentially be called a stale meta. And realistically, it's a very good meta. So I don't know why people complain about it so much. We do get quote unquote tired of things and whatnot. But there's several very good decks, and top 16 had 12 different decks from Worlds, so that's a really good showing. But if we realistically look at the upper echelon, or the top tier, S tier, whatever, I would realistically say we have probably a few kind of 0.5 decks, but not tier 0 broken how pretty much Rainbow Nines was, or Pomaz before Rainbow Nines came out, or there's those decks that are pretty much nigh unstoppable. And I think right now we don't realistically have one. We have a couple that are very, very strong, but have some real tough matchups that are still winnable but very tough. So one of them I would probably say without a shadow of a doubt is Sabine Ezra. And realistically, it could be pilot skill that does a lot for this, but we had 3 loopers in the top 16 of Worlds with Sabine Ezra. So regardless of anything like that, the deck list was just super tight, and the whole way that she operates was very, very good. Kind of doesn't matter what you're playing against, Hyperspace Jump is going to be good for that deck because of the speed that it has. If it has Battlefield, then it goes, alright, activate Sabine, override a weapon, smash you for 3 or 4, Hyperspace Jump away. That's stuff that other decks pretty much can't do. Even Obi Maz, that would have to roll out Obi. Okay, now they have to do shit off of force speed, or Maz triggers off of force speed in order to do stuff, then jump away. It's they get to do it, but they don't kind of get to see what's going on. If Sabine whiffed completely, she could just jump away and the opponent had no choice. So as a whole, that deck's very good. And the funniest part is that running interference got fucking hit in the face. That card got nerfed. Sabine Ezra wasn't even seeing a ton of play at that time, and boom, back at Worlds. I don't know, maybe it's just a lot of people don't actively play it or actively play it well. Too many people are all about the Sabine doing Sabine things and talking about player skill, except the skill's not in the I rolled God and killed you. The skill's in I survived with my 11 health character. And it's kind of similar stuff for Bro TK back in the small portion of time where it was very, very strong. Is that sure, if you can get the 10 or 11 in, you can win the game, but trying to get there through all of the madness that's going on was the hard part. And having her survive when stuff wasn't going well. But anyway, so yeah, Sabine Ezra is definitely in that 0.5 category for me. Because of the relatively questionable matchups with Kylo, pretty much Kylo decks that are good with damage, as well as I don't know, technically my deck doesn't seem to be a good matchup for it, but a lot of people that kind of played the deck, I guess, didn't know necessarily how to play the matchup, and couldn't really do well there. But for me, it was a great matchup for me. I'd rather play against Sabine Ezra all day, and I did play them in both top 16 and top 8. So yeah, tier 0.5 for Sabine Ezra. I am super biased, but I would also give my vehicle deck 0.5, or my Rainbow Yoda gun vehicle hybrid, whatever the hell you want to call it Rainbow PSP for Pink Shit and Peppers. And like the breakdown for Pink Shit and Peppers was that I was looking for what you call it when you kind of take all of your leftovers in the fridge from the last few days and you cook them all together or whatever, or just cook them and repurpose them for another meal. And our buddy Bounce Without, or Blake, who's from Australia, started laughing immensely, and he explained to us this whole Pink Shit and Pepper thing, because I got leftover steak and leftover this, and then you just some peppers and blah blah blah, cook it up, good to go. But so I think that deck is also 0.5. It's very few decks can kind of get the flexibility to play from a bunch of different positions, and that's definitely kind of my style. I want to play like a slow deck. I can never play from the fast-paced deck perspective, but I get to play. I can go and play real aggressive, or I can go play in like super control. Kind of depending what my hand is, depending what the match is. I can try to mulligan for specific cards and whatnot. But for me, that's also 0.5. The Stairs matchup for that is not very pretty. Stairs is Ray Ayla, for anyone that hasn't followed us immensely. If you're wondering why it's called Stairs, you'd have to go read the Bobby Sapphire article. But the breakdown was, and I believe it's Ghostbuster, where someone's like, "Hey Ray, where do these stairs go?" And so that's pretty much the gist of it. Don't shoot me. I don't know. That's my understanding of it. Called it Stairs, built the deck, whatevs. So yeah, Rainbow Yoda vehicles feels really good to me. And no, it's not that version running the fucking shitty like 4-drop and 5-drop vehicles. I think those are just not cost efficient, and that's why I wouldn't really run those. Like, sure, hitting Pirate Speeder Tank is awesome, but I'd rather have a T-47 and a Fang Fighter, or a DH and a Y-Wing, or any of those combinations of cards, instead of having a Black One, or a Pirate Speeder Tank, or a U-Wing. Those are just those single dies are cool, but when your die gets blown out and you just paid 5 for it, it fucking sucks. So yeah, no. That for me, that's 0.5 as well. I'm trying to think, like, there's a lot of decks with really good matchups, but depending on how many kind of like auto loss matchups they have is where stuff gets tough. I've made adjustments to Rainbow Yoda, so that the Stairs matchup isn't as bad, and I kind of learned how to try to play that matchup in general. I had no fucking idea, so like that was pretty bad for me overall, and I think I have a better understanding now, but realistically, who really knows? But yeah, so like, trying to think what else was there in Top Cut. I think Stairs is tier 1. It doesn't seem to have an easy time at all with Sabine Ezra, and it's probably just that because Sabine can just snipe a dude out and never tell me the odds kill the other one, or even like, all right, hitting a guy, they're putting upgrades on whoever, and then all of a sudden never tell me the odds Ray's dead, and you're like, what? And like the whole like hyperspace jumping away and the zero cost removal helps immensely. So I think between that and they don't have a lot of flexibility in the Stairs matchup. They pretty much have to go slow, do their stuff. They have a lot of death by 1,000 cuts into re-rolling into like the big damage sets. But Easy Pickings is always live there, and Tangle's real solid. So there's some definite blowout turns going down. And then like the inability to kind of mess with Sabine's dice on her initial like rollout activation, plus no access to Disrupt to keep her off of the resources for doing the silly shit. So yeah, Stairs tier 1 has an issue with Sabine Ezra. It seems to have some other issues as well. I didn't play the deck a lot, so I don't really know where its huge downfalls came from, but hopefully someone will chime in with more of those more questionable matchups. There's just too many decks right now to really have a firm understanding of where they had issues. Oh, they had issues with vehicles. Forgot about that. straight vehicle decks had very solid blowout removal, and it was hard for them to kind of bust through the tankiness before they started to die to the buildup of vehicles. CQA was really good for them, but everything else was kind of relatively slow going, and like the less damage they have coming out, the harder shit is for them, because garbage chute causes problems. I'm driving really slow in this fast lane, so I have to speed up a bit. That person just bypassed me because I was going like 45 and wasn't paying attention. When I say wasn't paying attention, I mean wasn't paying attention to the road. I just mean paying attention to the speed I was going. Used to the whole traffic grind thing, so traffic breaks, and I'm just like, what? But so yeah, that's very good. I think Honda Yoda is definitely tier 1. Trying to figure out the 30 is really, really hard for it, because like there's so many ways you can take it. Like there was a point when testing where I was just like ginormously huge on Energy Slingshot. Energy Slingshot pretty much gave you the things that you were missing, and now for anyone that's played Honda Yoda, you should know that like a lot of your dice dealt 3 damage. Your lipo would do like 3, like short had 2s, and you might take those, but it would do 3, could do more than that based on if they had shields you were destroying. Hondo's die was either gonna nab a resource from them or do 3. OB Saber would usually do like 3. So it was kind of just it had this, Cunning would copy the 3. They just had this whole like concept of each die would be 3 value, which is great, except for when you're attacking an opponent's guy that has 7 health, you're wasting a die worth 3 to kill that guy who had 1 health left. Everything was fine when it was like, alright, they have 1 health left, whether they get a shield or 2 doesn't matter because you can kill them, but that hurt. Then also, if someone was able to generate an excessive amount of resources, so Throns with chance cubes, opposing Yodas can just take a bunch of money. Like your Hondo had a really tough time getting in. So Slingshot was one of those cards because it had 2 disrupt sides and then 2 1s. The theory there was that it was always live. If your opponent spent all their money, all your Hondo dice became live, and like you're like, okay. And then if the opponent's trying to spend a little, keep 1 to pay him, the Slingshot would be capable of eating the 1. Then you do your Hondo stuff and smash them to pieces. And also, if you had excess resources yourself, then you were able to, disrupt them 1, pay the 1, re-roll it in, potentially disrupt them the second time or hit for 1, whatever you're looking to really do, and you would kind of try to maximize your use of re-rolls to try to get both of Yoda's dice active on specials or focus, as well as hitting on Hondo's dice, so you can try to get like max value from all of your dice total. And like that version's a slower version, so it can't really abuse Frozen Wastes, which is very good versus some of the more aggressive decks, because you would often get the Frozen Waste like 2 of their damage. Things change a bit on Frozen Waste when you're ahead, because if you've killed like their 1 guy and you've got your 2 guys, you had to like have 4 speed and be relatively quick in order to really get ahead of that Frozen Waste from plucking your Hondo dice and whatnot. So like the conversion I'm talking about is slightly different, slower, but you also have Destiny Council ran X8 Sniper and Burpeen Sniper. The Burpeen Sniper was primarily there for that little bit of unblockable shooting through without having to run something shitty like a base lightsaber. The 2 for a resource wasn't great, but not super bad, and then you could string the +2 together with the regular X8. So like that's cool. I believe a lot of people had switched to the plot that would let you draw the 6th card, so you'd be more inclined to find the key cards that mattered, like double dealings if you ran them, Cunning, any of your combo cards if you wanted like impulsives or determinations, etc., etc. But yeah, so like Hondo Yoda, very strong play. Like in the meta, it felt like one of those decks you could auto make day 2 with. It would just be really tough to beat good players, because good players pretty much knew it was going to be in the meta, so they'd be practicing against it. They'd understand the deck quite a bit. If you play against someone that doesn't understand how Hondo Yoda works, for the most part you're usually going to crush them like while you're playing Hondo Yoda. As people like learned it, got reps, had a better understanding, things got a bit tougher because things didn't always work the way you wanted to. Like I'd say against very strong players, you'd get to the point where you'd be looking to hopefully get paid off. They would take the damage. You'd be like, God damn it. Like one of the big things against that deck is if you always take the first 3 damage, because if you pay them off first, and then like kind of let them do 3, the whole paid off portion might go towards paying for an upgrade on Yoda. So like let's say your opponent rolls out Hondo first, okay? So naked Hondo roll out, they get the resource, they get the special, and now you like forgo playing your 2-drop to pay them off so you don't take 3. So now they're at 3, you're at 1. You can't generate additional dice yourself, and now that they have 3, they can drop one of their cool 3 drops. And like Destiny Council, I think made it a point to try to go lower down to 2 drops, so they can cast the stuff regardless. But so like now you're gonna have to worry about like Obi Saber or Handcrafted Lightbow, and like these are the hands that didn't hit Cunning. So if they hit Cunning, then you could potentially be looking at, okay, now you have to deal with like easy picking, things like that. Cunning would have already came down on Hondo, but just trying to more or less explain that concept. So now they'll have the upgrade. You'll be short. Like sure, they'll Hondo now. Now do you take the 3 or do you pay them again? If you pay them again, now they have much more money. You haven't done anything. Maybe you do some damage off your character dice, but how much damage are you realistically going to be able to do through their removal, as well as the fact that they've built up now. So then next round, if you repeat the same shit, the thing you're setting up is you're setting up for a race to kill their guy, without them hopefully ramping too much, because Yoda's going to ramp hard, and they're going to start spewing out dice if all you're doing is paying them. It's a very grindy way. You can do stuff like that. It is not probably the preferred way to win the game for you. Normally it's like, get a die, smash them pretty hard, they smash you, then start paying them off, so that you could get your damage in and potentially kill the guy there, so that when they're paid off, there'll just be around the same amount of dice. But now you can just either start paying off Hondo each time, or you'll have made them struggle because Yoda doesn't have damage dice himself. But so yeah, that deck's very, very good. Definitely tier 1. I'd say the original, Ayla Rainbow Vehicle deck also seems tier 1. Its big downfalls would be playing into Mill. That's pretty much an auto loss for them. Very aggressive decks can sometimes put a nail in the coffin, I guess as I would say. It depends on how fast their guy dies. Because if they early round 2 lose their Rose before they can really start ramping, or if they don't drop down like a Rally or like Tech Team set, because Tech Team doesn't do a ton for them always, but it'll help a bit. But if you've killed the Rose early round 2, they haven't been able to get modified Hawk down. You've pretty much killed the Hawk. You've made it they can still garbage shoot off Ezra and whatnot, but they've still got some damage coming off Ayla. But their whole ramping into vehicles thing gets slowed down quite a bit, so you get some breathing room. But now let's say they've got the Rally down 1, or Hawk plus whatever, and they roll generated resources, potentially get a second one. Things get much harder for them here, or for aggro decks here, because they start cautioning and mitigating, and their damage starts coming out the woodwork, because Ayla's going to put in work pretty much the entire game, because they're situated to re-roll once or twice. So Ayla's looking to screw you with specials, or beat you for 2, pretty much hit whoever, and whittle you down. And then you get into Y-Wings and Resistances, and Hawks and T-47s, and the damage just gets amplified. It just has a very big issue with Mill, because it's so slow. So if its hand gets destroyed, they have a hard time re-rolling, because their die sides are not amazing, and they're not kind of cohesive. If you look at Rose, you've got 2 in direct, you've got the special and the special. You almost don't really want any of the other 3 sides. Same thing pretty much applies to Ayla. You want like 2/2 special. Don't always, like, I guess you want the resource as well at times. Ezra, if your opponent has some money, until you have a base range side, he only has 2 usable sides, which is the 1 range and the resource. So like you just have more dead sides in that deck coming up, which can be tough. But that tends to have an all-around very solid matchup, especially versus like 2 character decks and whatnot. Trying to think what else was in top cut. Oh, Kylo Anakin and or Kylo Towson are also both like tier 1. They both operate very differently. Kylo Towson, if it's running like chance cubes, it can be relatively scary. Like Kylo Towson might be like 1.5, but Kylo, because of the way he works in the current meta, is very strong, and he might be carrying part of the deck to tier 1 on his own. Just because the expectation is versus most of the decks in the format, he's going to hit really hard. With 12 health and some mitigation, it's going to be pretty tough to get through, especially when you have access to Witch Magic and Force Solution, which are realistically both going to stop about 3 damage. So if we treat him at 15 health at that point, because expecting you to find one of those, you know, that's Palpatine level of health, which probably takes like 3 rounds for most decks to actually try to get through. And by that time, you know, you've probably already lost the guy, because they're going for focusing and fixing, and like they'll hit relatively hard. But if they ever get to ramp out and drop like a Rise Again or something, like that pretty much seals the deal. For Kylo Anakin, it is not a particularly easy deck to play, because you have to be capable of understanding how to manage resources better. Due to the pay sides on each of your character dice, you end up being like 50% when you include both rollouts to show at least one pay side between the 4 dice. Like, sure, you can reroll again, but you kind of decrease your whole numbers thing. Like, to be fair though, you're also 50% to show a resource on one of the 4 dice, so it's not nearly as bad as I make it out to seem. It's just that if you don't have money, you essentially have a dead side. People are playing on Rebel War Room to help navigate that. One second, there's a guy coming up strong, and the guy in the other lane's also deciding to speed up. So yeah, for the deck's really good because it is Kylo. It's mono blue, so it makes things easier. It has 5 base melee sides, so things like Maul Saber, Shoto, Ancient, very good there. You have its bind all things. You get access to CQA, which would be easier to hit than actually playing, you know, like Rey Ayla. And so like you can get some really blowout CQAs there from that deck, and kind of set up the whole thing that like Stairs essentially does, with like tankiness into an ability that can hit for damage. So it's similar from that aspect, and they have access to Doubt and Hidden Motive for the 0 cost removal, which is very solid there. So like the deck as a whole makes perfect sense. It's just not necessarily the easiest deck to play because of the pay sides. You have to like kind of monitor and do things correctly, and then you have some potential issues in decks that are good at choking resources without kind of slowing themselves down, because if the resources get choked out, you now have, you know, 2 blanks on each of your character dice. Then like Anakin Special requires you to have a villain card in hand, so slight bit on deck construction, slight bit on like holding stuff, but there are a ton of 2 damage sides there. Between the character dice, Kylo has 2 damage sides, and Anakin has 3, and then you've got Kylo's ability, so you can quickly lose your guy against that deck, and that's what makes it very, very strong as well. Not to mention you have no mercy, so all of a sudden, you know, that base 2 or base 1 showing switches to 5 or 6 damage. And it's like, oh shit, like they gave up the rest of their dice, but they killed your dude. Your dude probably had an upgrade or an ancient where you thought you were kind of safe, and now you've lost your dice for the round, and can't really get in. So overall, the deck's very solid there. Trying to think what else was in Top Cut. You got the blue-red OTK deck, Sienna and a 7th Night Sister. I'd probably call that like tier 1.5 by now. I believe it was Johnson Go. Sorry if I messed up your name, my friend. He continued to live the dream. He got into top 16 at Worlds with it. And I forget what he actually lost to. I don't know if it was vehicles or if he had lost to Boba 7th. I think that was the match anyways. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was vehicles though. And or no, you know, I think he lost top 8. I think he beat Nick Obi top 16, and then lost in top 8 to no. Actually, I'm honestly just not 100% sure anymore, because I know top 8 was Sabine Ezra versus Stairs. Then I played against Sabine Ezra. Matai played against Boba 7th. There should be one more match. He might have played against Kylo. I think he played against Edwin. That makes more sense now. Because then Edwin plays against him and I played against Mads. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. So yeah, thinking way too hard. And I got sniffles because of fucking pollen. So sorry, guys. But anyways, yeah, so Project K is in a very okay spot. That deck is all over the place. I haven't played it since the regional I won with it, where it kind of busted out the introduction. A lot of people were on it, but then like there was a lot of whole like CQAs and friends in low places coming out of the woodworks, and I just really didn't fancy playing it much anymore. With Sabine Ezra making a comeback, as well as things like Kylo Anakin. Any of the big little decks, it's very good versus. I had some tough times learning to play versus Hondo Yoda, but my friend Yodaz kept playing it and making tweaks and whatnot, and he ended up, like, I guess beating like almost all the Hondo Yoda matches via like slow grindy methods, which is weird, but he did it. So like maybe that's not as bad a match as I thought at the time. And you know, Protege versus Sabine Ezra is very solid, so it's hard to really know. But let's see what else is there. I think Nick Obi and the Artificery like 4-wide vehicle deck looked pretty solid. They do have some more questionable matchups at times, like still have that same issue with Mill, I believe. And there's just some decks they'll have issues with. But he ended up dropping the game to OTK. So there's not much you can do there. I think he said the opponent played like Maul and leadership in that round 1, and there's not much you really do when your opponent goes Maul and leadership. Probably smashed apart like 2 guys or something like that, or a guy and a half, and set them pretty far back. But what's the picture so blurry? Oh man, you guys had to deal with blurry shit the whole time. Oops. What else is there? Because we had all 3 vehicle decks in top 16. Boba 7's still in a solid spot. The 2 from top 16 were slightly different. They were both loopers, but for the most part, I think they built on their own. There was Matai or Salt Salt Salt, and Moonset or I'm gonna mess up your name, man. I think it's Breckenridge. But proud of everybody. But yeah, so they did very well with Boba 7th. Made it in there. And Boba 7's still a relatively scary deck. They brought back the inclusion of backup muscles, I believe. And backup muscles are very sneaky because, like, a lot of time, like, when we have, like, Force illusions and stuff, you know, we'll take 4 or 5 damage. Or maybe even, like, up to 6 on, like, the 10 to 12 health characters, and then it's like, all right, you know, we'll drop an illusion or get some shields on, and now, like, they're like, oh, backup muscle, and it's like, oh shit. Because if you take, you'll usually take 2 a couple times, thinking, well, you know, I'll illusion that 3, so maybe you go up to like 8. Now you've got like 3 health left or 2 health left, and it's like, okay. And then it's like backup muscle 1, you're at 9, and you're like, fuck, because now the illusion's not going to do anything, because the backup muscle at the beginning of the next round kills your dude. This is assuming, you know, 10 health. So, like, that's real tough. But that deck's still very good. I feel like I've named most of the stuff. Obi Maz. Still showing it as metal. Still doing, like, the combo tricks. Tries to be similar to essentially Sabine Ezra. Has a bigger, tankier guy, though. Doesn't have access to second chance, but the shields can be really annoying. There was at least one scenario where I was playing against Obi Maz, and the opponent dropped down like 2 Shotos on Obi, and, you know, getting 3 shields around is really hard to kind of bust through as your dudes are dying, especially once you start to get into the situations where, like, you either ran out of removal or you don't have access to blowout removal, and now, you know, a Force speed gets cracked into a concentrate and you're getting smashed for like 8 or 9, and it's like, oh shit. But yeah, so that deck still seems good. Has access to, like, the hyperspace jump. Has the tiny removal from, like, Hasty or Lothcat if it wants it. Has access to easy picking. Maz has some good stuff. It's just that Maz is a much more vulnerable target, and Obi can be a pain in the ass because his pace sides, or his pace side, sets up some not so great situations against some of the choke decks, because you end up getting, like, a dead side. You might maybe have access to Truce, but you kind of end up running, like, Maz's Vault, because they kind of do stuff like that, and it's a little tough on them. So, like, feeding an opponent could be bad, but Destiny Council did very well with it. I think Luke Magnuson was the one in top 16 with it, and I think Andrew was the only Hondo Yoda in top 16 with that deck. So Blue Yellow Hero doing good. But, like, so, like, those entire sets of deck definitely seem in, like, that tier 1 to, you know, 1.5 category. I think as people kind of figure out the deck lists a bit better, the whole tier system may, like, have to adjust, because, you know, let's say people figured out the best Sabine Ezra list, they figured out how to play it, they figure out, you know, the best you know, Yoda vehicle list, like, do some of those other decks because of questionably bad matchups there, end up finding themselves in a much worse position, and then kind of get dropped down like a tier or so. And, like, it's one of those things where in the current format, like, play skill and deck building does, you know, it's a lot. Like, it's worth a lot. The ability to, like, fine tune the stuff makes it so that it's I feel like I'm blabbling. Blah, blah. It's just really important. Like, you can kind of see where, like, the things go, where someone, you know, ripped, like, a full net, you know, a net deck off, and they didn't have, like, the, you know, proper tweaks for the meta or the proper meta call, and things just didn't seem to go well. But so for me, that's the pretty much the current meta report or tier list system. There are other decks that exist, like Qui-Gon Yoda. I don't think that deck's very good. Like, it does lots of cool shit. It's just that, like, when Qui-Gon's under fire, which can happen quite a lot in the current meta, because most of those decks I've talked about can output relatively heavy damage right from the beginning. Vehicles is probably the only one that can't really burst down a single guy relatively easily, or at least not my vehicle deck. Sorry, at least the non-honestly sarcastic vehicle decks don't have a bunch of direct damage that they can just spout off into a single guy. So like Qui-Gon gets time to suit up, and like setting up Qui-Gon with double Shotos gives you pings, but it doesn't give you protection at the same time. Whereas with like Rey 2, when you're grabbing your Shoto shields, you're just straight up getting the shields, and then you're pinging one for free. Qui-Gon can do multiple pings, but he doesn't get to keep the shields that he gained off Shoto while doing the pings. So like you are machine gunning Yoda's dice for single damages, which can be cool when you wanted to just kill a guy through like a Force illusion, but it doesn't do nearly enough when we're getting like a back and forth fight. And I think that's probably why you didn't see Qui-Gon Yoda's doing too well. My buddy Jeff was playing it. He was a 4-2 going into day 2, and we paired up round 1. So I got the pair down round 1. We ended up playing. I won the game. Things were going very well. Or it was going okay for both of us. He made a minor misplay where he didn't realize if he claimed he could keep his Qui-Gon. I think he could have kept his Qui-Gon alive or something like that. Or like he did something where I had to like shift the damage to be able to threaten to kill Yoda or something like that. It was something weird where the way I shifted my damage, he could claim, put a thing on Qui-Gon, shield on Qui-Gon, and then I end up killing his Yoda and going to the next round to then fight the Qui-Gon. And instead, I think he put the shield on Yoda, thinking, well, if I flip this other piece... Oh, that's what it was. I hadn't maneuvered my die yet. If he had claimed and put a shield on Qui-Gon, I would have had to have like fixed my die to... I think 6 damage in order to kill Qui-Gon, and instead, because he put it on like Yoda, he like lost his Qui-Gon immediately or something silly. It was something bonkers where he made like one minor adjustment trying to like save his guys, and then he lost his main guy, and then the game ended. I think he thought he had one more health than he did or something like that. But so like he did relatively well with it, but still went 4-2 that set. In general, he could always grow from a play skill perspective, so the deck could be better than I think it is. It's just the times I've played it, it was not a one-trick pony as much as it couldn't do much else. It could blast, splash, and damage. It could synchro, reroll quite a bit, but it was a lot of 1,000 cuts, and 1,000 cuts sometimes aren't good enough, especially when you're under fire, because now you're either got to be defensive or offensive, and you couldn't do both at the same like realistic time. But I don't know. We'll see if I do another one of these, if I can think of any other decks that I missed. But thanks for watching. We're close to 40 minutes, and commuting, man, gotta love it. All right, deuces. Security.